welcome to the Art and Faith podcast. Today we are going to be talking about theater. I want to welcome Nicole Stratton from Logos Theater and the Academy of Arts. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and get to talk with you about one of my favorite subjects.
I'm excited too. I'm excited for our audience to get to hear from you too. And very encouraged by a long faithfulness in the same direction that you and your family have given to the Lord and given to the arts community through your work. And I'm excited to just show people through this conversation what that's produced. So tell us about the Academy of Arts. Tell us about Logos Theater. How did you get here and what's your mission?
Wow. Well, the Academy of Arts was founded actually in 1971. My parents founded it, and before they had any children, so it was their first baby. But my dad has an interesting story. He was actually performing live on television by the time he was 9 years old, discovered having a beautiful soprano voice, given 2 TV shows. He would interview other live talent and then sing for 30 minutes on television back when they were doing live TV. And of course, everybody thought he was going to go on and become famous, go to Hollywood, but he had a wonderful godly mother, my grandmother, and she really just poured into him the philosophy that really now is the Academy of Arts, which is really for her saying that what you have is a gift. My dad's name was Nikki, and she said, Nikki, what you have is a gift. You couldn't earn it. You didn't deserve it. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't steal it. God gave it to you as a down payment on your life. Always use your talents for him. And so that really settled in my dad's heart and mind, never looking at the talents that he had as his own, but to give them back to Christ. And so he went off, he got a degree, a master's degree in music and in drama, and also a degree in Bible, and wanted to start something that could really change the course of the culture and draw it back to Christ through the powerful medium of the arts. And so he and mom started that in 1971. And as they traveled around with their drama teams the first summer, people would see the productions and go, wow, this really makes the Bible come alive. And so our first motto was making the Bible come alive. But now, of course, our ministry has grown over 52 years. We still do full-scale biblical productions, but we do a whole lot more than that. So the ministry now, our motto would be making the Bible come alive in minds and hearts through the power of storytelling. And so that's what we're here to do. We know that we're made in the image of God, and we want to take that image and proclaim truth through it, through the beauty of the arts, and really see people drawn to him. So that's what we've been doing for 52 years.
That's amazing. I love that. Making the Bible come alive is such a fit for theater, because theater has so many pieces of storytelling in it. You know, when I look at what you guys did, when I learned about your organization just a little bit and first went to your website, I immediately was drawn in by the visual aspect of it, by the puppetry that you've developed, by the staging, by the costuming that you're using, and just that visual way of making the stories of the Bible come alive would just by itself be an incredible thing to bring, but to also, have song, to have dance, to have characters and live performance and interaction with an audience. It is just such a vibrant art form. And I love what you guys are doing. Tell us, what is the Academy of Arts and what's Logos Theater?
So the Academy of Arts would be that overarching ministry of all 5 facets of our ministry. That's the umbrella over it all. Mm-hmm. As the ministry grew through the years, another facet would be born. And so now we actually, for the last probably 45 years, have been a 5-faceted ministry. So Logos Theater is actually a part of those 5 facets. So when you see the Academy of Arts, you've got a facet of Logos Theater, which would be here, Taylor's, South Carolina, is where our home base is. We have a fully functioning theater here. We're blessed to have a turntable, so our floor revolves, and just a lot of beautiful things that the Lord, not through really a lot of money, but more of just God's brought us people with amazing abilities and talents that they're willing to use to create these things. Yeah. So we've got a great theater here that really functions year round with a season that the community can take part in, and everything there. And then that's where we've been training our teams that also travel around the country. The reason we do that is because, again, when my father was young, he had the opportunity to go to a really big school in high school, but his mom pulled him out and put him in a small Christian school but that meant he didn't get the opportunities that were being afforded to the larger school. And that was, they were bringing in a director from Oklahoma and sets, they were bringing in people from New York, and they were doing these full scale productions. So when he developed the Academy of Arts, he said, why can't we bring that to Christian young people who probably a lot of times don't have the funding to have all those kind of scenery? If you can build the scenery, where do you store it? I mean, they have so many different things they're facing out in the homeschool and the Christian school movement. So that's our Dramatic Word Seminars branch. So we still send those teams out. This is our 52nd year to do that, where we send our teams out into different homeschool groups or schools or churches. And then for 1 week, we do a full scale production with them. We bring all the lights, the sets, the costumes, the props, everything that they would need. And then a trained team that works with them for a week. And then from those young people, we ask certain ones to travel with us on the summer drama team. So that's the other facet of our ministry, where we travel in the summers with full-scale productions, touring in about 80 different locations. And then we have a college, and the college is, again, to train up the next generation of Christian communicators. And they can get an associate's degree with us, and then they can also get a master's degree with us. And then what's great is we've been developing what's called a gap program in that college, because some kids just don't know what they want to do. Maybe they think they love the arts and do what we do, and then they don't realize how much work goes into it.
Yeah.
So they need to try it for a year, you know, and just see if it's and we've been making a partnership with Museum of the Bible, because that's a great way for them to not only do a partnership with us for a year, but take half a semester and perform as a living history illustrator up there in the Museum of the Bible, just giving them more opportunities just to try different things and see if that's really where they want to spend a lot of time and finances getting trained in that area. And then we have a film department as well. So Venture Films is something that the Lord laid on my heart. Not particular. My dad obviously was in film, I mean, in TV for a long time, but the film side of things was really where the Lord put my focus. And so we were able to start that about 15 years ago, and have been really also using that as the arm of a lot of the pictures that you're seeing in the video, all the promotions, that's all being produced by our film company. So we have 45 people on our staff full time. And so we are all working daily, every single day, working on all these different facets and seeing how the Lord would continue to move, make up our generation and understand who the Lord is through the beauty of what he's given us in the arts.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's a lot of, community theaters around the country, a lot of traveling productions, and they just exist at different quality levels. So, I'll get introduced to a lot of different organizations and things, but it was such an exciting thing, such a joy to just even begin the process of learning about and unpacking what all you guys do, and then to see the beautiful level of quality at which you are doing it. Everything from the videos through which you're telling your story and demonstrating the work to, like I said, the puppetry just by itself is mind-blowing to me. And I'm excited, at some point in the future to come out and see what you guys are doing live. But I want to tell our listeners, you guys have an original musical that's touring the Scarlet Pimpernel. You have had at the Museum of the Bible, you had The Horse and His Boy, and that'll be coming back there. Is that right? And then also you have Prince Caspian from C.S. Lewis coming out. So big productions.
To Museum of the Bible, it will tour, Prince Caspian will tour there in the spring. We, right now, as far as we understand from the C.S. Lewis Company, are the only ones with the rights for a full-scale professional production of Prince Caspian. And just doing the Narnia things alone, I think for me has been such a journey. I actually had said I would never direct the Narnia series. But Narnia, challenge. And on top of that challenge, now the Lord has placed another challenge on us. It's not just producing Narnia in our own theater, which we are comfortable in, and we know it, and it's ours. But now the Lord's called us to actually tour with these large shows, which, as far as we're understanding, the level of production that we are hitting with the Narnia shows, there is not another production company that I'm aware of in the Christian realm that is touring with that level of production on a regular basis. Yeah. It's just probably because normally, number one, to make a show like that fit into, one semi or in 3 box trucks, and then to financially figure out how to make that work for both parties, and then to get a 45 member cast that's willing to give, several months of their lives to do this is just an extremely difficult task. But the Lord has called us to it, and he is doing it. And I think something new is happening that has really never happened in our country before, which is we're now emerging onto a whole nother arm, I think, for Christians to be able to have a voice, have a platform to take large shows that would rival the quality of Broadway and begin to tour with them ourselves outside of the system, which not happen.
Yeah, I think that's happening across the arts, and it is so needed. I was speaking with a Broadway actor this week who is, in an audition process, and so frequently receiving a lot of new scripts that are coming out. And this actor was just grieving and sharing this with me because they're getting darker and darker and darker, and celebrating death, celebrating lies. And we can't really pretend anymore that this is neutral ground, right? I mean, we're either advocating for the things of God or we're advocating against the things of God. And so I am excited to, every time that I learn about people that God's been raising up to carry his character and who he is and his message, the hope of the world that we have in Jesus through the arts. I'm like, yes, I knew it. I just knew they were out there. So whether they're filmmakers or dancers or, people who run theaters or whatever it might be, God is so big and he's so smart, and he never, just leaves a generation without those who will carry his message. So yeah, it's exciting.
It's a cool thing. And to me, I just look at this and I like, even when you're saying about these stories, we right now are telling the Scarlet Pimpernel. It's an original musical in Logos Theater. I mean, talk about dark. That show could end up being in dark. But the whole point of us taking that show and bringing it to life was so that we could bring a message of hope and a message of unity to where we're looking at our country right now that's celebrating cancel culture. The ultimate cancel culture is going on in the French Revolution. And yet there's one single person who goes against all odds, who puts his life and his fortune and everything, even his own personal desires of love aside, for the betterment of the cause of saving people's lives who are innocent. And he rallies a small band of men, and you look at a small group of people with truth, honor, and fidelity. That's one of the songs in the show, and they're banded together with these principles of truth, honor, and fidelity to make a difference, and they make a major difference in such a dark environment. And so, I'm just grateful to be able to be telling stories like this and to challenging the country to rise up and to really, when you see young people getting excited and going, I'm only one, but I am one, and I'm going to make a difference now because they just watched one of your shows and they're having hope to move on, is so incredible. So yeah, I hope that you one of the shows, because seeing it live to me is the best way to watch it. The thing about the Narnia shows, because of all the different rights of Netflix having rights to the filming of them now, and I know the Walden films were going on before, all those rights for filming are tied up, so you can never, we have filmed the shows, but we're not allowed to stream them in any way. So if people want to see the shows, they actually have to go live to see them, which is why I'm so excited. The Lord seems to be taking the Narnia shows and forcing them out of the Logos Theater to the country. So we're praying that a tour across the country could be possible. And of course, Museum of the Bible has had the vision to get that started. They are the ones now premiering them on their stage, and really connecting us with people like you and people all over the country who want to see things like this actually get more of showing around the nation.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So,
the Museum of the Bible is just such a kingdom embassy. It really is. I'm so thankful. I meet people all the time who've had interactions there, had their ministries encouraged, or really just had the whole trajectory of what they're working on changed. And so you're one more of those stories. It's exciting to hear. And I agree. I think, and this is encouraging probably for all creatives, sometimes we reach those moments in ministry where we feel pressed tightly and we feel like, oh no, I don't have provision. I don't have enough space. I don't have what I need. And in your case, you're outgrowing the space that you have. And that could really seem like a problem. But God is saying, listen closely, this is an opportunity. I'm actually expanding you, not asking you to contract, and sending you. And I love the testimony of that's present here.
Well, it's almost like you've been in our meetings, because that's literally what our talks have been, and our staff meetings and everything. We had to actually stop and say, okay, there's ways where God is, yes, we're busting at the seams now here in our facility, but where is God stopping us? And he was actually stopping us from expanding right next to ourselves, where we have a building adjoining ours, and we were trying to expand there just to be able to stay put where we were and have all of our needs met, and it would not happen. And so my husband and I said, Lord, you're saying yes in these areas, but you're saying no in this one, and it's strategic because you want us to think another way. And it's exactly what you said. He didn't want us to get comfortable right where we were, because we would have expanded and just stayed right there. But he's now forcing us outside of ourselves. And I see, even with the Museum of the Bible, that was a challenge, because their stage is just gorgeous. And the theater, the World Stage Theater, it's state of the art. Yeah. They have literally one of the best sound systems I've ever seen in my life. But their backstage area, because they're on the 5th floor of the museum, is just not a lot. So when they were talking to us about bringing a show of the magnitude of The Horse and His Boy, we thought, wow, it would not fit. I mean, we have 5 puppets alone in The Horse and His Boy that perform with us. And so our team we don't like to say no. So when we feel God is moving, we have to say, this might just be a detour. This might just be an obstacle that we need to look and see how he's going to overcome it. So our team got together and we said, okay, if we redesigned this set, we would design it with their stage in mind, and I rework some of the staging of this show. Would it fit in World Stage Theater? And we all decided we could make it fit. So our team actually got together and redesigned and rebuilt The Horse and His Boy specifically to go into Museum of the Bible, which actually has now made it tourable. So now once we fit it in their stage, it can tour all over the country should the Lord open that door. So, he's strategic, and you're looking at it could be a negative. Oh, we've got to rebuild the set. No, we get to rebuild the set because we get to open more doors for more people to be impacted by Lewis's works.
Yeah, it's so good. I rarely say this, but I really legitimately did get chills while you were talking about that, because I just have this sense in my spirit that there will be people, maybe a few people, that listen to this and find themselves at a moment in their lives when they're saying, I have this calling, I have this mustard seed faith, and I do see that God is expanding, but there's just a piece that we feel like we're banging our head against the wall. And to make that pivot to say, God, is this strategic, and could you open our understanding, is a key. It's just a key. And so that's hard when you're in that moment. But I think when we tell those stories, they help people to open their imagination, help people to engage a season of prayer, help people to have faith to even fast for understanding and for just the companionship of God in the problems. So I think I just have a sense that you sharing that is significant for whoever will find this and listen. So thank you for sharing it.
Praise the Lord with that. And even you saying fasting, that's what it's been. We've been fasting. We've been walking around our building praying. I mean, our whole staff is going, God, we're in your hands. What do you want us to do? You're saying things through everything you're doing, even the shut doors and the open doors. So help us see what you're saying. And you know what I've realized looking back over these, really, I hate to say it, but it's been 25 years now of directing. I look back and I say, wow, he was shutting that because this needed to happen over here. And it was always way bigger than what I even could have ever imagined. And he has to put you through those difficult times where you don't have certain things that you think are now convinced, I must have this or I cannot do this thing. But he's going, no, I've given you myself, which is everything you need.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you this task and myself. So walk forward in faith and do the thing I'm asking you to do, and watch me be your provision and your great shepherd through this thing. So for me, I'm so grateful for the times of we did not have the money or we did not know how this would happen. And then the Lord just met us right. And even sometimes, I will be honest, there have been times where I'm like, Lord, you're late. you're late.
Sure.
How this was supposed to happen before, and you're late. He is never late. And he is always, and I tell you, my father actually my father went home to be with the Lord 2 years ago, last 2 summers ago. And he was a founder of our ministry. He was not only my father, he was my mentor, my teacher. Like, he was just so many things to me. I asked him to be the voice of Aslan when we started doing Narnia. And I never knew that he was sick at that point. But he actually passed away of liver disease, which was a very difficult death. Had never had alcohol in his life. His father had been an alcoholic, so he had avoided alcohol his whole life, but had put on some medication that actually caused it. So when I started to realize he was failing, and to the point of I wouldn't have him anymore, I got him into the studio. I recorded him for all the lines of Aslan, for all the rest of the books, should the Lord have us go through all of them. So I'll have him with me. But there's a scene in The Horse and His Boy where Shasta is literally at the end of his rope. I mean, he has he's met the hermit. He's running and running and running. And the hermit says, you can't stop running until you meet the king. He's run this entire time, and he feels like he has failed. He feels like he is now even not going to get there to help with the battle. He got the word to the king, but now he's all alone. He's lost in the fog. And in this scene, he falls down on the rock and he's saying, I'm the most unfortunate boy in all the world. And I think so many times we can think that when we're alone and the enemy comes to us and says, where is God? I mean, he called you to do this, but where is he? Where is his provision? Where is all these things that you need, right? And so Shasta's on this rock, and this is when Aslan comes to him and whispers his name, Shasta. And he's looking around, and he has this moment between Aslan and him, and he says, well, it was bad luck to meet so many lions anyway. And he says there was only one lion, but he was swift of foot. He says, how would you know? I was the lion. And it hits me every time, because I remember writing adapting that play, and I was writing that scene, and I wept writing that scene as I was typing that out, because the Lord was saying it to me, that he was the lion behind me at different times, giving me the strength of fear for the last mile, so that I could reach that goal that he wanted me to be. He was there comforting me when I needed comfort. He was all the things, and he is the art that we are portraying. And so to me, I just look at these productions, and I thank God he called me to do them, because I think he knew I needed to be meditating on these truths as much as I do, because I stray so easily, and he keeps me meditating on them. But I think if people can understand, when we are called to follow the Lord, he is always there every step of the way. He is using every bit of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, for his glory. Trust him. Don't speak against him in any way or put an accusation against him, because he is always good, and he will turn it for good. I've seen it over and over again. And even what's happening with Narnia, I'm grateful to share it to the country, because we need to be reminded of that right now. Our country is going through so much, and it's easy for us to turn our focus inward or outward to certain different directions of anger towards different things, instead of going, all of this is God working his story, and we are a part of it, here to give the truth and to tell as many people as we can while we have time. So hopefully it's encouragement to someone. Please he's with you.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It does feel like so many lions. It does. But yeah, then we have that greater truth. Man, that writing, that source material, it's just so rich and so good. And it has that wonderful quality, the whole series of, you can read it as a child, you can read it as an adolescent, you can read it as a young adult, you can read it as a more mature adult, and you're going to have completely different revelation at different times. And there's just so much richness and so much beauty in that. I pray God will continue to send us just those stories. We could tell the ones we already have forever, but it is such a joy to discover the ones that are just so beautifully and richly created. Okay, hard shift. I want to ask about your school. You said you have a college. Is it a residential college there? And how many students are there? Tell us a little bit about it.
So this year alone, it's paused for this year just because we're working that partnership with the Museum of the Bible. The next year, we're bringing it all back together, Logos Theater and the college. But what it is it is a college that is housed out of our theater, but it actually is a touring thing as well. So they will tour during their training. They will take online classes. They will take physical classes with their professors, and they travel around the country actually learning and teaching the thing that they have been learning in class. And then they will produce, at the end of that, they will produce a small piece themselves and actually direct and pull the whole thing together. They can get an associate's degree with us. That's a 2-year program. Their bachelor's degree they can get is with us as well, but they have to do all the other courses like their histories, their sciences, their maths, all those gen eds have to be done somewhere else. We only specialize in what we do. And then a master's degree, I think we have one of the best master's degrees in the country. It is just mainly too because of the resources that we offer to our students. They are able to use the Logos Theater and all the resources that we have of costume sets, everything. And in 2 years, they work with me, and they will get a script, and they will write a script from scratch, from either a classic piece. It all has to be royalty free. A classic piece, they can do a musical. I have one girl right now working on a musical about Harriet Tubman. It's going to be, fantastic. And so then we vet those things, and then they produce them in the Logos Theater, and it's a 2-year program. So the GAP program is just, they would get a certificate of completion, and it's really for young people who are not quite sure, but it's an amazing experience for them. And a lot of times what will happen is they'll come into the GAP program for a year and then enter the college program once they realize, okay, this is what I want to do. Museum of the Bible has partnered with us for us to be able to help provide through that GAP program LHI people. Now that's really important because as you walk into Museum of the Bible, you want to see the Bible come to life. You want to meet Esther and David and different people walking around the museum, people performing inside the Nazareth experience. So that's what we're doing right now. That's a new partnership we've just made. And I'm excited because that's a new thing I can offer to the GAP students of what an amazing experience to put on your resume of performing for a semester with the Museum of the Bible. So
absolutely,
it's a great but that's really what the college is. So they will not only be in-house training with the conservatory at Logos Theater, but then there is a block of time where they actually tour as well, which is a huge part of their education. And not only the education, but the heart of ministry, because as you teach other young people out there on the road and minister to them, disciple them, you're really gaining your skill level at the same time as your heart to use it for the Lord, which I think is an important combination. Yes. Hopefully we won't produce too many prima donnas that way. That's what we're trying to make sure we don't produce, is more servant leadership in the arts than prima donna mindset.
Yeah, it definitely is a thing creative people can struggle with. And good examples, good experience, being mentored through that, not just theoretically, but in practice is a real path toward health. So I get that and I appreciate it. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is the from page to stage kind of thing. Is there a moment that stands out for you? I'm sure you have many, of trying to figure out, how do I take this book format and this moment and translate it into this other format that I'm working in on the stage? Is there a moment that stands out there for you?
Wow. Well, there's, like you said, there's several, especially in the Narnia series. Lewis's imagination has no bounds. So when you're looking at his books, they are beautifully structured for books. But then if you did them exactly like how the book is structured, that would be a difficulty on stage. And I would say even every book with Lewis, there has been an emerging theme that I've noticed with his writing that is unique to that book. So let's say for The Horse and His Boy, he is very adamantly saying all the time that they're amazing storytellers. So I like to listen to the author. I love submitting to the author and serving the author when I'm adapting a classic work. It's classic because they were, the classic authors. So it's my job to submit to them. And as I listened to Lewis, I said, wow, okay, I'm going to really lean into that and figure out how I can make this story. Instead of Erebus and Shasta, we have horses that they ride in the show. So it's not that I couldn't have them just sitting on horses talking, which would be interesting, but I wanted it to kind of come to life a little bit more. So I think the uniqueness of Horse Nosed Boy is the way I'm morphing in and out of reality into back to flashback so fast that the audience, they're just kind of immersed in this major dance that we're doing on stage of storytelling in and out, where as I was writing that, I was saying, now this is either going to be the really cool idea or this is going to flop bad. And I won't know until I actually start staging it to see if it actually works. And praise the Lord, it worked well. Figuring out with Caspian, I felt like there was a difficulty about that book. By the time you get done with the battle, you've hit a climax, and it will really die off if you begin to go through the sticks with the Telmarines. I'm not sure how many listeners are familiar with Caspian, but there's a whole lot of events that happen after the battle. And so you have to be careful with the Narnia books. Some people are coming to our shows who are absolute avid fans. They know every single line of the books. But then there are people that are coming that know nothing about the books. So I have to keep both audiences in mind as I'm adapting these stories. And so Caspian was important for me. I love the way it begins. It actually begins at the end. So there's an ending part of Caspian that begins the show, but it's so well done. And obviously it's Lewis, but it's just so poetic there. And it's a lines from Aslan, but it's this gorgeous narration that really starts you where you don't expect to start, and it captures the audience and kind of pulls them in. But I mean, you've got problems with things of like, as I was writing certain things, like as the trees are going to come to life and fight in the battle, you're cringing because you're like,
right.
As you write, I think there's certain people that are writers that don't have to produce what they write. I'm different in the fact of I'll have to do the things I'm putting down on the script. So there are times where you're just praying and saying, Lord, we have to make trees and they have to fight in the battle. So I have to write this down, but then he helped us to build, trees. And so, again, it's a huge step of faith. I think we had a debate about the Scarlet Pimpernel, whether or not we would have not an actual functional, but a seemingly functional guillotine. And we decided to do that. So there's that, but also too is Scarlet Pimpernel. It's a classic, but it's a classic book in a huge series. So that there was a challenge to give yourself a finality to the book where you felt like the show ended instead of, okay, there's a series where it's going to keep trailing on, and you can't really do that. You can't do 15 versions of Scarlet Pimpernel. So you have to kind of look at all of the works that author did and see and cherry pick and pull together a cohesive, really dynamic, climactic ending that maybe is not necessarily in the first book, but it is in maybe this other book that that was also written in the series. So it's discussions like that you're talking through structure-wise as you begin. And I'm very much of the opinion, I'm going to show it if I can show it. So we have Caspian riding away on a horse. We have Reapy Cheap's tail reappearing. We have the Bridge of Baruna breaking apart every single time with the water god. Like, I don't want to talk about it off stage, and you wish you were off stage rather than where we were just talking about it. I want them to see action, which means more work, more production value. But at the end of the day, it really, I think, brings the story to life a lot better that way. But those are just a few highlights of different things you have to think through.
No, it's great. I really hope that our listeners will go. I hope they'll go see your shows, but I also hope they'll visit your site, Academy of Arts and Logos Theater, because I don't know, this is kind of a visual spoiler, but even hearing you talk about the trees, if I had not looked on your website, I would never have dreamed that you would have made the trees walk. I mean, that is a big step. That's even a big thing to animate, but to do it live through puppetry is just, that's a lot to take on. It's a lot to travel. So I'm just really inspired by the beauty of what you guys have made, the lengths that you've gone to, the problem solving that's involved, and just the long history, just the faithfulness and what it's producing and what it will continue to produce. So I hope our listeners will find an opportunity to see these shows live, to learn more about you, to support what you're doing, if they're theater people, to get involved, but also just to go to your site and look around and learn about this particular art form and all that it can be. I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing.
I appreciate it so much. If you are near DC, we're going to be up there all spring. So Prince Caspian is playing there. What's really neat is the Horse and His Boys now going beyond there. It's going to Branson, Missouri this Christmas. And then there's talks of other places that it's going to go. So, and really right now, it's really a race against time with the Narnia shows once you have them mounted, because children grow. So it's really very much parallels the books. The children playing these Narnia children will actually grow out of those roles and will age out and then play older roles later on. So there's this kind of, we have this kind of little tradition that we do with the children when they age out, and we give them little gifts. And it's hard for them, because if you think about the children right now playing Shasta and Aravis, they have performed together, I think 115 times so far, just that group. And they will perform this so many times, and then they'll never perform those parts again because they will actually be physically too big. So it's like Narnia, where Aslan tells them, you aren't able to come back to Narnia in that way again. But hopefully they go on to their next thing, and they really take those lessons and that experiences with them. I think it's very formidable for them in those young years to do such, deep content. It's incredible. So yes, please come see it in the World Stage Theater Museum of the Bible. Also, the Freedom Encounter is where it's showing in Branson, Missouri. So we'll be bringing our horses and everything there. And talking about the trees, and people might think, oh, I'm not a theater person, but we actually use a lot of guys that do parkour in our shows. Okay. So it might be somebody that just, I love parkour. Well, doing stilt work in trees is no joke. You have to actually be really great at that kind of physical stuff to be able to do the kind of stilt work they're doing in the puppetry. So it takes everybody's talents working together as the body of Christ to do something like this.
Yeah. It really does. And that's why we love theater. So listeners, check it out. You're going to love it too. Academy of Arts, Logos Theater. And Nicole, I just want to thank you so much, Nicole Stratton, for being our guest today and sharing with us just a little glimpse into your world. Thank you.
It's been a joy. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.